We are actually remembering 3 different Advents. First of all, liturgically, we're celebrating Advent. We're anticipating the celebration of Christmas. And of course, the liturgical Advent is remembering the first Advent, which was, of course, the birth, the Annunciation, and the birth of Jesus, and the preparation that there was in the Old Testament for that. But then we're also looking forward to the second coming. So that's another Advent that we're anticipating. And of course, Advent is a time to be ready, a time to be present, not a time to be distracted with other things. Now, I had an experience on my way to church here, which was sort of an Advent, a waking up experience. I was going down Union, and there was a green light, and it turned yellow. And I thought, I'm going to gun it. Well, just as I was about ready to gun it, there was only one car that was waiting for the light to change. It was a police car. And I thought, okay, I should always imagine that there's a police car nearby, and that would be a sign for me. So it's kind of like the gospel is talking about, if you knew when the thief was coming, well, you would have been ready for that. But a thief doesn't send you an email or leave you a phone message saying, I'll be there about 2 in the morning. No. And so we need to be ready all the time, all the time. We need, as best we can, to live in the present. But as you know, that's very difficult to stay present because we always get distracted with things in the future or things in the past. And it takes a lot of patience to be present. We have to deal with our own anxieties, our own worries. But I've always believed that if you can't do nothing, and that kind of feels like doing nothing when you're just present, but if you can't do nothing, you really can't do anything because you're not yourself. You're not present to the presence of God in you. And to me, that's what Advent is about, is practicing being present, practicing the presence of God, even if it's just for a short time. And so we would like to encourage all of us to spend some time, either in the morning or in the evening, whichever is better for you, in just maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, doing nothing, just being present to the presence of God. Because if we're not present to the presence of God, then it's all ego. It's all about us. We can be busy about many things, but it's not going to be fruitful. Remember the story about Mary and Martha. Martha was in the kitchen, and she was doing wonderful things. She was cooking dinner or doing the dishes or whatever. And Mary was doing nothing, sitting at the feet of Jesus. And Jesus said, she has chosen the better part. So as important as all the busyness is that we get involved in, all the distractions in life, as important as they are, there is nothing more important than being present to the presence of God. Because that's who we are. Babies have no trouble being present. No trouble at all. That's all they can do. They haven't learned to do anything yet. But when they start learning how to do things, like talk and walk, then they have to face distractions. And so we have to keep returning to being like a baby. And that's a beautiful image of prayer. Just be like a baby. Just be. And the parish is gifting us with those missalettes, that is a reflection for every day during Advent and Christmas. And they're very short, and that might be a way to practice the presence of God. Just read that over each morning or each evening and just be with that. Because our world really needs this presence of God. We can't do it ourselves. No matter how many good programs we have in our country or in our world, no matter how many efforts we make to bring about peace and justice, we can't do it without the presence of God. And the first reading from the book of Isaiah reminds us of that. That Israel, they wanted a king. And God said, you have a king. Yeah, but we want a king like everybody else. And so God conceded. But there's only one king. There's only one reality that can really bring about peace and justice in our country and in our world. And that's the presence of God. You don't hear politicians talking much about God, do you? I didn't hear God mentioned much. And yet we profess as a country to be one nation under God. And even our coins say, in God we trust. But you don't hear God mentioned. And yet God is the one who created us. God is our author. And so let us during this Advent practice the presence of God so that we can bring the presence of God into our world, which desperately needs the light of Christ.